Happy New Year. It's great to be back making videos again. Today's video is going to be a homemade pizza. Now, homemade pizza is actually really easy to make and it's got loads of simple ingredients in it, most of which you'll find in your cupboard, except one probably. This is active dry yeast. It can be found in Tesco for €1 and 4 cents. There's 8 sachets in it, and that's what's going to make your base a proper pizza base. And yeast is a living organism, so it needs to be warm and it needs food, which will come in the form of the warm milk and the warm water that we're going to add to it. And I don't want to just make any old dough, any old base, so I'm going to add some garlic and herb in it so it'll have a bit of an Italian feel to it, or taste. So it'll be a really short video hopefully. It'll only take you altogether about maybe an hour to make, so I guess I should get started. So here's today's ingredients. We've got 400 grams of plain flour, 237 ml of milk, 113 ml of water. We have a teaspoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of mixed herbs, and 1 sachet of dry active yeast, which is 7 grams. For your sauce, you want some tomato paste, olive oil, your mixed herbs and garlic again, chilli, and some honey and pepper. For your toppings, you can obviously use whatever you want. Mozzarella would traditionally be known as pizza cheese. So I've just shredded up a ball of that with 69 cents in Tesco, and I have some chopped salami there as well. Just a packet of slices of it, and I just chopped it up. To a bowl, I've just added all the dry ingredients, which is a tablespoon of garlic, a tablespoon of mixed herbs, 1 sachet of yeast, and the 400 grams of flour. I'm going to now microwave the milk and the water so that it's warm. It really has to just be warm. It can't be hot or cold. I'm going to add that to the yeast now in a sec. So when that's all mixed, you want to just cover it up with a tea towel and leave it in the room, into the kitchen or wherever you want to leave it. Just leave it at room temperature for about half an hour so that it'll double in size. Now, while we're waiting for that to rise, we're going to make our tomato sauce. I've added about 75 grams of the tomato paste, which is about half that tin, or about 2.5 good tablespoons into a bowl. I've also added a tablespoon of olive oil. Now normally I'd use water, but olive oil actually keeps the tomato paste together when it's being cooked. If you add water, it kind of tends to be a bit slimier, a bit watery of itself. I've also added a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of honey, and a good sprinkling of pepper. And oh, I forgot to put in the mixed herbs, but throw in some of the mixed herbs as well. And that's just my recipe though for a sauce. As long as you've got the tomato paste and a bit of olive oil in it, you can add in whatever you want. If you want to make it really hot, if you want to just add some garlic to it, if you want to add some like barbecue sauce or I don't know, Worcestershire sauce or anything like that, like this is where you can really experiment. It's not just with toppings that you can experiment with, it's with the sauce too. It's been half an hour and my dough has risen to about double its size. So now it's really important to preheat your oven right now to 200 degrees because you really need that instant heat for the yeast to work properly and to form a great dough. Next part's going to be really messy, so make sure you've got loads and loads of spare flour. Well, it appears that my dough is the same colour as my counter, so hopefully you can see this right. And the mixture is still very wet, so you want to make sure that the surface is really floured, that you put some flour onto the top, make sure that even your hands are really floury. And what we're going to do is basically knead this about 6 to 8 times or a little bit more. If you haven't kneaded before, just watch me. You kind of play with it a little bit, I guess. And just make sure it's really floured. And you kind of put your fist through it and then do that. You kind of just play with it, I guess. I'm sure there's a proper scientific way, but fist it or punch it, bring it over and then turn it around. And now we're going to use a rolling pin, or because I don't have a rolling pin, this can of cooking spray. Make sure you put some flour on it so it doesn't stick. And then, like I said, just roll it out to your desired thickness. Now remember, if you don't have a circular baking tray, don't worry about it. I mean, pizza doesn't have to be round, it can be whatever shape you like, so don't worry too much about that. Just going to add the paste and the toppings now. Now you can pop that into the oven for, well, you see, depending on the thickness of the crust, it'll take between 15 and 25 minutes. So after 15 minutes, you really should just check it. And if everything is browned and everything seems to look like a normal pizza, then you can take it out. But obviously for thicker crusts, it will take a little bit longer. It might take up to 25 minutes. But this is pretty thin, so it might actually only take the 15 minutes. But we'll check it anyway. I actually left that pizza in just for 15 minutes. And so it looks like I was just afraid that it was going to burn. So I took it out, after 15 minutes. So that was a pizza video. The pizza didn't actually rise as much as I wanted it to, but I've made about 5 or 6 pizzas in preparation for this video, and I have found that results have varied significantly. I made one that came out really thin, so when it came out I just folded it over and ate it with a knife and fork. I made this one earlier. Don't know if you can see how thick that is. And then the first video I actually made, I made it as a stuffed, the first pizza I made actually, I made it with a stuffed crust and it came out massive. So I don't really know what the secret is to make sure it comes out the same way every time, but just the most important thing is to make sure that when you're adding your liquids to the yeast, make sure they're warm, just warm. If they're too hot, they're going to kill the yeast. If it's too cold, it's that the yeast won't activate. But as you can see, that everything else was basically just from your cover, just some flour, some herbs and spices, tomato paste. If you don't have tomato paste, but you have some passata, which you should always have, and the passata will be a bit watery, so add a bit of flour to thicken it up. And even if you don't have either of those, but you do have like your favourite pasta sauce, your favourite type of tomato sauce, you can use that too. Some pizzas come with a barbecue sauce base, you could just use barbecue sauce. It's just one of them things that you can, do whatever you want, put on whatever kind of toppings you want whatsoever. It's really just the dough, the base of it, that I really wanted to show you guys, because the flour was only $1.29 for a big bag of it, and the sachets were only $1.04, and then the dough that I actually made can make 2 pizzas, so like that's just, it's so cheap like to make that. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I don't know, like I never know, but I don't know what I'm going to make next week. I think, seeing as I made it dough, I might make some pastry next week. I might make it quiche. The quiche is kind of the same thing, always like covered ingredients and can always be really cheap. So thanks for watching. I'm really happy to be back and making videos again. So until next week, eat well, be well, and good luck.